All right, everyone, welcome back to Be the Market Expert. And today let's open it up a little bit differently, right? And we know that we are in a skills-based market at this point, right? That we have exited out of the speed-based market, which was 2021. And on top of everything that is going on, right, with interest rates and home prices being where they are, and we just have a true, real affordability issue for the most part, right? Everyone still wants to own real estate. We still believe that's the American dream. And yet the affordability is what's slowing a lot of people down. And so when we kind of look at, purchase applications, when we start looking at inventory hitting the market, we start looking at all these different things. The big constraint right now that we have is the flow of money, and whether that is money that is being put into actually building houses, whether that is money being put into actually purchasing houses, that's the big issue. And there's a lot of headlines going around, and I think that that's one of the big things that we're running into as real estate agents right now is the media. The media, what we do know is this, that headlines, the more negative and the more doom and gloom, is the more clicks that people are going to get. And so unfortunately, we don't see a whole lot of, fluffy, happy news floating around. And especially right now in an election cycle, right? We know that we are um, going through an election cycle right now. And so buckle up, it's going to get even crazier. But if we look at this thing and we hear everything that's happening, this was an article that came out yesterday, and it says Blackstone Real Estate to take Air Communities private for approximately $10 billion. Billion with a B, 10 of them. And so when we're thinking about this and we're looking around, well, I think that we have to keep in mind is there's still big companies and big corporations out there that, while all the media is saying this is a bad time to buy a house, Airbnb bust, housing bubble, recession, and yet there's a company out there that just spent $10 billion. And on top of the $10 billion that they spent to acquire, they're also saying that they plan to deploy another $400 million to maintain and to improve the existing communities that they're buying for $10 billion. And so think about that, right? So as we're having conversations with our sphere of influence, with our clients, our customers, anyone that's following us on social media, right? When we're going through and we're doing this, these are the things that we need to make sure. And so people are going through, and again, unfortunately, the doom and gloom sells. But then why is there a company? And this isn't a dumb company, right? Like this isn't someone that is just spending stupid amounts of money for fun. Like they have a plan. This is a very smart company with a lot of money. And if they're going out and they're putting a $10 billion bet on real estate, then why wouldn't we be advocates for our people, for our consumers, our clients, and our customers to be going out and purchase real estate as well, right? We do know, we do understand that there have been more millionaires and billionaires created through real estate alone. And this is a billion-dollar company, a multi-billion-dollar company going out and spending $10 billion on real estate. So I wanted to put that out here. This just happened yesterday. And so, with everything that we're seeing and all the conversations and all the media saying back away from real estate, back away from real estate, yet there's companies out here spending this kind of money. I think that we need to know that and be able to understand that and be able to have conversations around it when those times present themselves. All right. Now let's get back to our regularly programmed schedule here. So we're looking at Housing Wire, and this came out on Friday. And as always, we're looking at rear view facing data because we don't have crystal balls. And while we can look at the data and we can assume things that may or may not happen, this is the best that we can do. And so really all real estate data is rear view facing. So this came out on Friday, and this was looking at the previous week. So it says weekly housing inventory data, both active inventory and new listings, are prone to 1 week moves that deviate from a trend. Okay. Especially if people are going Easter egg hunting. All right. So, right, we're looking at last week, we're looking at last Friday, and it's looking a week backwards. And so we're looking at the Easter weekend week. And so we're looking at this, and it's saying that things kind of slow down. And we understand this, and we understand that things are kind of happening, especially when we get around holidays. Holidays typically slow things down for us. And that's why we truly don't look at Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's. We don't look at any of the holidays that are around there because we know that people are doing family things and it slows down. So it's saying the same thing here. So the fact that active inventory new listing data fell last week isn't a big deal. And so we need to keep that in mind. We saw less homes hit the market. And again, it's because they have things going on. It's a holiday. And so less homes hit the market. And so with less homes hitting the market, even though we are truly in constricted markets right now, as far as inventory goes, we saw even less inventory hit the market, which means that there's going to be less buyers going out because they're already seeing some of the same houses over and over again. And we can even look at this, right? Like, if I were to pull this up just for fun real quick, and we'll get back to it. But even as I was looking, because every time we like to look at interest rates, and then I like to dive into the city that we're looking at, like even if we're looking through this, a lot of these houses have been just sitting on the market. Like they're not new. You can see a lot of price decreases. Like this is the median price point in Arvada right now is this $699,000, I think is what it is. And all these homes have been sitting. Here's a price increase, right? We talk about this as well. This is a new build. But all of these houses are sitting. So if a buyer has gone through and last week, 2 weeks ago, they saw the houses in their desired neighborhood or their desired zip code or city that they want to live in, and nothing new has popped up with the interest rates being what they're being, they're not going to go rush into a house they probably already passed on. And so that's why we see things slow down, especially with the market being where it is with interest rates and the price point, with the affordability of money, with the monthly payments being what they are, people aren't going back to these houses that have sat. And so this is what we're seeing right now. And so going back and looking at this is why we saw some slowness, is because of a holiday weekend. People didn't go back to the leftovers, right? They didn't go back into the fridge for the spoiled milk, if you will. And they are waiting for more inventory to hit the market. And it says, but despite the weekly moves, the one bright spot for housing is that housing inventory is growing on a year-over-year basis. And this is what we need, right? With the market being what it is, and we have more buyers, discerning buyers in the market, we need more inventory to hit, because with the price points being what they are seeing a house and they're like, you know what, this needs too many repairs. This, you know what, this bedroom isn't really a bedroom. It's not going to fit what I'm looking for. I don't like the noise of the neighborhood. Whatever that is, the buyers with the monthly payment of what they're having to pay at this point, they're saying this house doesn't hit my criteria. So we need more homes to continuously hit the market. And most of these are going to be resales. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind as well. We're never, ever, ever going to be able to build out of this inventory deficit that we are in. And quite frankly, it's not in the builder's best interest to do it, right? They cannot keep the prices inflated the way that they are if they flood the market with houses. And so firstly, we'll never be able to build out of it. And secondly, the builder doesn't want to build out of it because they won't make as much money. So we need to see homes hit the market. And these are resale homes. We need people to be more comfortable selling, or that they're moving to a different state, a different city. They're getting transferred. They are taking a new job opportunity. Like life is happening to them and they're having to sell these houses. And this is what we're truly looking for. We look at it when it says weekly housing inventory. So here we are, here's the graph, and it says weekly inventory change from March 29th to the 5th, which is when this article was written. Inventory did fall. And again, so we saw it go down. Again, it was a holiday weekend when we're looking at this data, but we can see that it's still more than what it was in 2023. And so this is the positive of where we are right now. We need to be continuously seeing the inventory to rise as much as it is rising. And then we're going to see more and more buyers come to the table and be more comfortable looking and having conversations, because with interest rates being what they are, I think that we're all in the state of mind at this point to where we know that we're not going to see the 2 and 3% interest rates anymore, that we know they're going to be somewhere around 5.5 to 7, right? Like people, I mean, they might not like it, but they know that that's kind of the world that we live in now. And we're going to see more people come to the market as long as the right house hits for them to purchase. If we look back at 2022, right, it's going back and it's saying, you know, the all-time inventory bottom was 240,000. So we're at least double that at this point, which is huge. Inventory peak in 2023 was 569. So we're a little bit less than that. But again, we're just ramping up. We're getting out of the winter. We're getting into the spring, and we will see more and more people raise their hand to sell houses. And then again, like we do like to look back historically, anything pre-2019 is considered a healthy market. And so if we're looking at pre-2019 data, this is going back to 2015, we had 1 million homes on the market, right? So this is what we're looking for. We need more houses. We are looking for more of a balanced market. A balanced market means there's more options for buyers. And it's not going to drive prices significantly lower, but the prices will be a little bit more stable. And so this is what we're looking for. We want to see 1 million homes on the market pre-2019 data. And here's just your graph showing that. And here we are right here, living somewhere in this very bottom. And you kind of see this a little bit of a plateau. We had a little bit of a spike, but then we started to plateau a little bit right here this week. New listing data 2024, we have 54,000 homes at the market. 2023, 55,000. 2022, 63,000. So the more and more homes, the better. We're not seeing it grow as fast as, who cares about thought, what everyone's looking for. Like we need more home growth. And so the more houses that hit the market, the more healthy of an environment that we will be in. We will see more buyers and sellers come to the table at this point. And here's just your graph, like as you're looking at this thing, 2022, 2023 data. Obviously, we're in 2024, and here we kind of are, right? We're this dark red. And so we're sitting, you know, at the, kind of where we were in 2023, but we're not in 2022 levels yet. We want to see more houses. Price cut percentages. We know this. 1/3 of all homes in the United States take at least one price cut. 1/3 of homes. And so if we were to look at this in 2024, we're sitting at 32%. So we're almost at 1/3. And so we will continue to see this. And we did, right? Like when we flipped over to this, like we're seeing, this is just Arvada as a whole. We're seeing price cut. We're going through price cut, like we're seeing. And like, I guess we could add this up to see if this is even just a 1/3 of the population, at least of active inventory. But there is 1/3. 2023, we're at 29%, so close to 1/3. In 2022, the reason why we didn't see as many price cuts in 2022 was really the interest rates were still kind of where they were. And so with interest rates being lower in the very beginning months of 2022, we didn't see a lot of price cuts because we were in that unhealthy market, that savagely unhealthy market, if you will. And so homes were hitting the market, they were going off, right? That's when you go talk to the neighbor and the neighbor says, oh yeah, the person's house, it sold in a couple seconds, or it sold on a weekend, or it didn't even whatever. And so what we saw is more price cuts happening as interest rates went up, because they went up in a historically fast fashion back in 2022. I mean, we weren't in like some inverted hockey stick. I mean, like it went up faster than we've ever seen it in the history of the United States. And so just here we are, right? So just price drops, and we're just kind of going through, and this is your visual representation of that. We're not going to talk about the 10-year yield. We're not going to talk about the spread between the two, or treasury bonds, but purchase application data. And so this is something we always need to make sure that we understand, because this is the psychology of our buyers. This is your buyers raising their hands, talking to your lenders, wanting to have a conversation for what do they qualify for. So purchase application data didn't move much last week. And again, a holiday weekend. And it says making it back-to-back weeks with a flat weekly data. And so we're seeing it sit a little stagnant right now. And so as we're going through and having conversations, we did talk about Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell did not go hawkish, and he didn't say something crazy about what they're going to do with the CPI data coming in the way that it did, right? Buyers Consumers are still spending money. Job growth is still happening. And he didn't say anything that he was going to raise the rates to slow this down. So that was good. Now we're sitting in a point where interest rates are still kind of just sitting, and we'll look at the interest rates here. But with the interest rates being what they are, the price point being what it is, this is discerning buyers. And so as we're going through and we're having these conversations, this is where it's very, very, very important that we need to make sure that firstly, that we understand as real estate agents, as the real estate economists of choice for our clients, that we understand what lender or what products our lender has, right? So as you're having conversations, like what value does your lender provide to your clients? What programs do they have? With the cost of money being what it is, does your lender have 3-2-1 buy downs, 2-1 buy downs? Do they have a free buy down? Like, does your lender offer a program where the first year it's already baked into it to where they're having a buy down from this, 7% down to 6 or 6% down to 5 or whatever they qualify for? So guys, I implore you, talk to your lender, send your lender an email after this call and just say, hey, just want to verify, like, what is the interest rate? What programs do you have to help my buyers right now? And start advertising, find out what literature they have, because this is truly a reflection of the interest rates. We're seeing the purchase application data drop down the way that it is because the cost of money is so high. So here we are, right? And again, we're in the basement. Like, this line represents the first floor, and we are living in the basement. We are at all-time lows. Like, look at this, guys. This is 2016 data all the way to today. And we have less buyers raising their hands than we've had since before this graph was started. And so just be thinking about that. And again, it's because of the cost of money. So we just need to be making sure that we're having conversations, and those conversations that we are having with our lenders, we're making sure that we understand the products that they offer and the services that they offer to have our buyers raise their hand. And guys, we need to be putting this out, like, put it out on social media, put this out on your Instagram, put this out on your TikTok videos, your Facebook. Maybe it's somewhere where you're doing blog articles around this and you're just putting this information out there. Your Google My Business, right? Like, all these different places, you should be getting this information out with your lender partner. They should be giving you market collateral. You should be pushing it. And then you're going to be able to educate, and you will win. And so what they're looking for as of Friday, right? So Logan Moshami, the economist for Housing Wire, we are jumping right into Jobs Week into Inflation Week. And so last week was about jobs. Now we're looking at inflation. So they're going to be looking at CPI and PPI. I think that those numbers come out Thursday. These will be important reports, as many market players have unused the seasonal base pricing variables for reasons. And so as we're going through, again, if this number doesn't look the way that they want it to look, and most likely it won't. I mean, let's be very honest. Like, we were to look at the spending, and if we were to look at most Americans, and I'll look for that data, like, for maybe our next call, maybe next Tuesday. I'll see if I can find a graph, because I'm sure there's one out there. If we were to go find a graph about how much credit card debt's on the average American's credit card at this point, we're going to see this astronomical numbers. And so what this is saying is, because I'm just going to forecast, I'm going to predict crystal ball time. I'm going to predict that the numbers are going to come up higher than they want them to, which is going to show that the American people are still spending money, even though money is unaffordable at this point. They're just putting on their credit cards, right? They're going through they're going into their wallets, they're putting on their credit cards, and they're spending money because they look at it as money that they can just pay back at some point, and it's just readily available, and they have all the time in the world to pay it back. And that's the issue that we're running into. And so with us keep spending money, and the cost of goods are going up, and we keep spending money and the cost of goods are going up, and this is just a vicious cycle that we are in. And unfortunately, we are in an industry that is selling the highest priced product that most Americans will make in their lifetime. And so when they look at that, they actually can't put most of those charges on a credit card. And so this is money that they're having to come out of pocket. This is real money in their eyes that they're having to use. And that's what's slowing down. And that's why we as an industry, we are truly in a recession. We are in a real estate recession because home prices are going up and the purchases are going down, and they've been going down. And it really is because of the affordability of money. So now let's look at this. And this is just for 2024 year-to-date numbers. And obviously we started on January 2nd because January 1st was a holiday. And as we look at this, guys, we can see that it's been going up. And while we've been having some blips from time to time, cost of money is expensive. And so if we were to look at this, if we were to look at the 30-year conforming loan, right? So a conventional loan, we're talking 6.9. Your consumers are paying 6.9%. And if we were to look at the FHA, we're talking about 6.6. Becca just said, I just spoke with a client about being careful, paying off too much credit card and not having cash in hand for items. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Like there's all kinds of crazy stuff. Like if you guys want to go down a rabbit hole for fun, go look at like credit card hacks on like YouTube. And there's all kinds of different things that like help your credit card score, like as far as what day you need to pay them off so that it even registers it. And so you actually get points, right, with the credit card company to raise your score. And absolutely going through and, some debt is probably okay to keep because in the current market that we are, it's costing a lot of money out of pocket. So absolutely, Becca, that's a good call. And so 6.6% on FHA. And so this is what's happening, right? Like we've gone through, we started sub 7%. We've definitely peaked and hit 7%. We've seen these peaks and then obviously these valleys. And this is why it's very, very, very important to have a close relationship with your lender and for you to be looking at this information, right? We need to be going through because there could be someone, you could have a buyer that's on the fence that maybe they have been eyeing some particular home, hopefully on your website. Most likely it's probably a competitor's website, right? It's probably that one that rhymes with Pello. And so they're going through and what are we doing to be that economist of choice so that we can make sure that like when something like this happens, this might be the magic number to where they raise their hand and they want to go buy that house. And so all these valleys, like this is where we need to be making sure that we're understanding that they're getting their pre-approval information. Everything's tight. And then we go through and we write the offer and then they get locked in at this percentage. So even if that house falls through, they're still locked in at that rate for a time period. And this is very, very important, guys. Like we need to be making sure that we're seeing everything that's happening and that we are communicating to our buyers that are on the fence because 6.3% versus 6.6%, like that's a little bit of a jump, right? Like we need to know that this actually is hugely impacting our clients. And let's just kind of go back and like one more look at this. Let's scroll up. Let's go 1 year's time. And so this is just 1 year. This isn't, January 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2023. This is like 365 days. So 365 days, like this is not where we are. Thank the Lord, right? Because this totally put try having a conversation with a buyer saying, now's a great time at 7.8% interest rate to go buy a $600,000 home. Good luck with that conversation. So we're not in the worst place that we are, but just understand that money's still not as cheap as it used to be. And like if we were to go all the way back, let's see what custom range I can do. Like, let's go back. I don't know if it's going to let me do this, but we're going to try. Let's go January 1st, 2021 to today. Let's see if it lets us do this. Boom, there it is. So this is kind of a fun graph. Like, look at this. This is where most of our clients are still living, right? Like they're like, look, I know that interest rates were at 3%. And this is where I want to be. And this is what I was talking about. Like this is 2022 where it just started to take off. Like it was like here. And then we lived through a little bit of this weirdness, another takeoff in 2022, got really, really fast as it shot up. And now we've kind of just been hovering, just kind of going up and down and up and down. And again, this is Fed policy. The Fed policy is what's driving this up and down, is that they're making money more and more restrictive because they want to make the dollar, they want to make sure that inflation isn't destroying the dollar and that the dollar is worth what the dollar is worth. And that's why they make the cost of borrowing money so expensive, is to slow that inflation rate down. So then let's go through and let's look at Altos, right? Altos data. This is super solid, and this is where we're getting most of our information from anyway, is through Altos. But if we were to look at this and we're looking at Arvada, because that's just, I don't know, my favorite city, I guess. Median list price point, right, is $699,994. I mean, let's just call it $700,000. Median price for new listings hitting the market, again, $700,000. And our price points per square foot, $297. And if you look at this, right, like this is just like a little mini graph that you can see that we're kind of going up. We're kind of in this upward trajectory. This is kind of flattened out. Price per square foot's going up, and a lot of this is driven by inventory, right? What's interesting with all these conversations that we're having, this is where it gets kind of exciting. Maybe not exciting, but definitely interesting, is that, you know, you go into the media right now and with all the doom and gloom and the NAR settlements and everything that's happening, is they're saying real estate agent commissions is what's driving up the prices. Shame on all of you real estate agents. But in all reality, it's the inventory, right? We don't have any inventory. And so when we start talking about supply and demand, and we know that people want houses, especially in the United States, the American dream is to own real estate, is that we're looking and we're seeing these numbers go up. It's because there's no houses on the market. So people's product, even though interest rates are higher, we're actually seeing the home values being more expensive as well. And so this is very interesting. Like as we're going through, and guess what's going to happen as interest rates go down? It's going to get more expensive, right? Like that's what's interesting about this whole thing, is that we don't have any supply right now. And so we are still in a seller's market. And so even with interest rates being what they are, people still need housing. So interest rates are high, and so are home prices, and yet we're still in a seller's market. And then when interest rates go down, there's a lot of smart people, right? We're still supposed to have 3. We went down from 6 down to 3 price interest rate decreases is what the Fed's predicting. And so when we start seeing these things happening and the price of money goes down, guess what? There's still demand. And so we're going to actually see prices go back up. We're going to see bidding wars again. And they're probably not going to be crazy $100,000 over asking. But I think if you guys were to look at this thing, there was a new article through NAR the other day. It was actually going through who's buying houses again. And if you were to look at it, it's millennials. Millennials are the leading demographic as of 2023 to today. They got unseated by baby boomers there in 2022 when the cost of money was getting so expensive. But we're seeing people go out and buy houses again, and they're actually borrowing money. So as we're looking at this thing, it's going to be very interesting to see as the year progresses on and interest rates start to come down, home prices are going to go up. We just don't know what they're going to go up by. Average days on market. And again, guys, when we talk about average, just keep in mind, they're taking all the days on market and they're dividing them by all the imprints that we have. And so we're sitting at 57. The median one's interesting, right? Because the median, they're just going all the way and they're working their way in, right? From the lowest and the highest, and they're working their way into that middle number, and that middle number is 14. And so this is one of the very most important conversations that we can be having with our sellers, is that when we're looking at the competition, right? If we were to go through and we're having this conversation with our sellers and we're letting them know what is happening in their neighborhood, their competition, we need to be looking at how many days on market and what their price point is. And very soon, you know, if we're not having to do that conversation already, we also need to be looking at the buyer's commission, right? The co-op. We need to be looking at the co-op and seeing, okay, so this is the price of the home. This is the photos of the home. This is what how many days the house has sat on the market. And this is the co-op side of things. And we need to be looking at all these variables to be making sure that we're giving our seller the most information that they need so they can make the best decision, right? Because it's ultimately the seller's decision on how they want to go through and put this house on the market. but we need to give them all of the information that's important to help them make this decision. And so if we were looking at this 14 is the day that if we were to take all the outliers, that's how long houses are sitting, that's that median. Price decreases in Arvada 31%, so we're sitting right at the national average of 1/3 of all homes. Price increases, we don't really care, but we're just seeing that there's some houses that are coming onto the market, new builds, where they're increasing the prices. They're in a different phase, right? They're in phase 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. They're releasing houses. Relisted homes, discerning buyers again, right? We're seeing buyers that are walking away from deals because it does not check all the boxes. The inventory 120, median rent is $3,050, and then they're just giving it a 64 score. That's their scoring system, which we just look in here. We're saying seller's market. So we're looking at 700,000, 699 to 700,000. So I'm in Arvada. This is Arvada as a whole, right? And we're just looking through, and again, like as we're looking at these things, I think we're going to see a lot of townhomes. We're going to see a lot of these 1960 Hutchinson houses, right? That's what these guys are right here, these Hutchinsons in Arvada. Here's more townhomes. That's not a Hutchinson, but it is a ranch. Also not a Hutchinson. That is a Hutchinson. Like as we're going through, that's just the type of house it is. But if we were looking at it, let's go find something that might be priced right and more Hutchinsons, right? We're seeing a lot of ranches at this price, but here's a new build. So here's a new build, 699,000. It's called 700K. That's our median price point. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,500 square feet. And in all reality, there's like this 0.4 or 0.04 acres, right? That's really just like the property. That's probably that the home's sitting on. It's probably your pathway, whatever this little kick out is. Like that's all the yard that you get for $700,000 on a new build in Arvada right now. So if we look at it, I mean, this is the model. So I don't know how much this really looks like the home that's for sale, but pretty nice looking house. I mean, it's fun, it's modern, it's whatever. I don't know what this room is. I don't know what you even do with this. I think it's like a weird like closet because I think this is a room. So interesting, very interesting, but let's go. Let's look at what it will cost. So 6.7, do we agree with 6.7 right now? Let's go 1 month's time. 6.7, let's go conventional, yes. Let's go 6.9. And then we got let's go 6.7, why not? FHA. Let's go FHA 6.7. And so we'll take it off at 10%. And let's say that they're going to bring down 6. They're bringing 6%. So we're saying that our buyer, our first-time home buyer, this millennial buyer, I think Gen Z made up like 3%. So Gen Z is entering the market, but they're not a big player at this point. So if we were to look at this 6% down payment, that's $41,000, $42,000, 6.7% interest rate, 30-year fixed. Your buyer needs to have $4,826, right? $4,826 a month for this house. And if we were to look at this, the principal, that's $4,200. $4,200 is going to pay off the house, right? 30 years. In 30 years, they'll own this home. Property taxes is not counting for any property tax. So guys, this is where it's unfortunate. So this payment, this isn't even real. Unfortunately, like let's dive out of this, because if you were to look at this, just so you guys know, property tax, this isn't a real number because this was on vacant land before. So the property taxes was nothing. So we're not going to play with this house. Let's go to a different house because that number is not real. Let's go. There you go. Let's go to this house. While this house is overpriced because we can see that it's been taking price decreases. $725,000 is what it started at. I like it a little bit more for what we want to do. So there you go. So now you see the property taxes has changed. This is more real. Just so you guys know, right? New build, you see the property taxes. There's no property tax. That's because it is a new build and they weren't paying anything on there. So 6%, we're going to bring down. That's again, it's $42,000. Here's a more real number. Your clients are paying $5,000. $60,000 a year is going to a house. That's not their internet. That's not their furniture. That's not their heat. That's not their AC. That's not their electricity. That is just the shell of the house. $5,056. Property taxes, $301 is a part of that. The home insurance, $125. There isn't an HOA in this particular house. And then their PMI, their private mortgage insurance, the mortgage insurance that they are purchasing for the lender to protect the lender because they only put down 6%. $384 of that is that mortgage. So if we were to go, let's go 20%. Let's say that they're going to do a conventional loan, 20%. We saw that. Let's call it 6.9. Now let's go 6.7 still, but let's go 20% because that probably makes a little bit more sense. Here it is. If they bring 20% down, $140,000. They bring $140,000 down for the $700,000 house. Then they're looking at $48,000 a year for their home. But again, this goes back to Becca's point, right? Like, this is why being able to make sure that you have more down payment, because this is the conversations that you need to be having. Doesn't make sense to put more money down and to be cash poor and to be cash poor for a lower monthly payment? Or do you want to have cash, but you're making a higher monthly payment? And this also goes into that conversation with when we start to see rates go down, we know when rates go down, the prices are going to go up and they might not be worth what they're going up for. And that's a whole nother psychology thing that we need to be talking about. But as the prices, and we're getting into these bidding wars, and let's say the house doesn't appraise. So let's say this house doesn't appraise and we actually went higher. And so maybe we went 725,000, their asking price, because now we're in a bidding war. This is months down the road. Interest rates have dropped. And so let's just say that interest rates do go down. Let's call interest rates like 5.5. So we're at 4,000 right now. Let's call it 5.5, $3,600. But I'm still bringing 20% down. All right. So there's my 140K. So if we're looking at this thing and we get into a bidding war and it's 725, but the house only appraises for 699, that means our buyers have to bring that additional $25,000 to the table. So it's no longer 140,000. We're talking about $165,000 that our buyers are having to bring down to the closing table to be able to afford a house if it does not appraise. So guys, these are just things that we need to be looking at. Again, it's still a good time to buy. We still need to be making sure that we're going through and having conversations and being the real estate economist of choice. There are big companies that make a lot of money that are going out and still buying houses. $10 billion is what Blackstone is going to go invest in. And so $10 billion, and they're saying we're going to spend another $400 million to make them prettier and to maintain them. A big thing with everything that's happening is inventory and interest rates. That's what's driving a lot of things that are happening. And again, here's our interest rates. Like, we're a little bit higher. And again, like, there's these little blips here and there. So pretty normal. Lee said, so if someone in my SOI asks a market question and they claim to know other agents, or as if they have a contract with the other agent before giving advice, I know I wouldn't want to give advice if they end up using their other agent and provide. How would you approach that? Yeah, so that's the conversation. So guys, this is the thing. And this is more just a conversation track that we need to be making sure that we understand. Just like you, and you're going through and you're going to a store, and what's the question someone's going to ask you? What are you looking for? What can I help you with? And for the most part, everyone on this call is going to say, nothing, I'm just looking. Well, firstly, like, we all went in that store for some reason. Like, we're all looking for something, but that's our default. And so a lot of people are going to say, yes, I have a real estate agent. That's going to be when you're working an open house. That's going to be whatever. Now, I get it. So Lee's question is more like, okay, but so someone's already told me they have an agent. My question is this. I'd be like, you know what, I appreciate that, Lee. And I think that everyone has an agent. Like, we all probably know 3 or 4 real estate agents. And I would like to, give you some advice, but ethically and by law, I can't if you have a signed agency agreement. So do you have a signed agency agreement with your agent? Because guess what, guys, they probably don't. in the grand scheme of things, they probably do not have a signed agency agreement. And that's the key word. So just because someone tells you they're working with someone, that doesn't mean anything. They're a transaction broker relationship. So I'm going through, and what I'm probably going to ask is, do you have a signed agency agreement? Because if they don't have one of those, then they're not under representation, and you can have a conversation with them. Becca said sometimes really dangerous right now is to talk about interest rates too, buy downs. Yeah, yeah, guys, don't talk about date the rate and buy the house, right? Like we're not don't have those conversations. Those are scary conversations. Don't do that. You don't want to be talking about refis. You're not a lender. And we don't know what those look like, right? I mean, agents got in this hot water in 2022 when rates were going up, and they're like, no, just date the rate and marry the house. And it was like, here we are 2 years later and the rates haven't gone back down. So I wouldn't go and have that conversation whatsoever. Let the lender have the conversation. Let the lender tell them what their monthly payments are. Let the lender do all that. Your job is to be able to go 20,000-foot view. My lender partner has these things, which we've seen be able to help a lot of people get into houses. Would you like to have a conversation with them? Like that's your script. That's your talk track.
Something too, I just wanted to jump in. Make sure that the lender, whether it's your lender or your client's chosen lender, is on the same page with that. Because I just had a client who needed to bring $30,000 cash and she doesn't have it. And he just told me, hey, just ask the new builds for it. They'll give it to you. And I was like, are you in the same market that I am? Because we're not on the same page at all. And we ended up having to completely redo all of her application, the whole 9 yards with somebody else. So make sure that your lenders are actually on the same page that you are as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the big things. I appreciate that, Becca. Like, guys, as you're going through and you're having these conversations, make sure that not only is your lender on the same page, but make sure they understand what they're doing, right? Like go look and see what the team around them is, see how long they've been in the business. And while I'm not saying like work with like a super experienced lender and like cut off anyone that's being brand new into the business, but make sure that they understand the process. Just like what Becca said, I've seen numerous times where lenders have gone and been like, I can do that, or I have that product or whatever, and then they don't really have it. So have a conversation with them up front and understand what they're offering before you get into a position where you're actually having to bid on a house. And they've told you this entire time that they've been able to do this. You go and you put the offer in on the house and the lender's like, oh, we can't do that. Because I mean, that's heartbreaking for everybody involved.